This is a look at what I believe to be a foundational play in the Eagles offense, one that comes from a balanced formation, but a play that is really heavily skewed to one side. Call it an RPO or what some used to refer to years ago as a quadruple option. Nonetheless, it's something that has given defenses real problems dating back to at least early 2021. I'm talking about week one, Jalen Hurts' first game, first season, I should say, as a full time starter. He did start 4 games in the 2021 campaign, his rookie year. But they unveiled this 2 of the first 3 plays, or maybe the first 2 snaps, in fact, against the Falcons, just totally shredded them that game on the road. This concept, like I said, I think is foundational to what they do in many respects out of 12 personnel, but it can be operated or executed from 11 personnel. It has some roots, in fact, dating back to the Eagles' Super Bowl victory after the 2017 season against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. I did a large scale video on the Eagles' RPOs after the 2021 season. So I think back after Shane Steichen's first year as an offensive coordinator, in which I gave an opinion on Jalen Hurts, and I did another follow-up video, or another similar video, I should say, after Philly's Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs following the 2022 season. I'll link those up. You're welcome to go back and check them out if you enjoy this one. In any case, let's look at the concept, and I will explain what I know about it, and then you're welcome to fill in any missing pieces or blanks that you notice in the comment section. So for the reference in this video, it's a 2x2 formation. I'll generally refer to this as ace gun. In this case, it's 11 personnel. You can see one tight end spot shadowed to the top side of the formation, or top side of our screen, and then a wide receiver in the slot. It's a compressed formation, so everyone is tightly aligned, well inside the tops of the numbers on the downside of the screen, and then A.J. Brown with a compressed or tight split at the top. RPO or quadruple option. And so I'll go through those phases, or the 4 options, if you will. It's more than just the 4 receivers or potential eligible receivers down here, and then Jalen Hurts, sprinting out to the right-hand side. It's actually a really nice play by, I think it's Kendricks from 2022, and I am using film from 2022, 2023. I looked at some of those plays that I mentioned from the Falcons game, week 1, 2021, and I just could not find any, to be honest with you, but they, were really my first introduction to this concept at the NFL level, utilized consistently. It's not that other teams don't run this. It's a one-handed or right-handed football play, if you will, in this particular example. It's not that other teams don't run it. It's just I don't think everyone sells out with it and utilizes it to the extent and with near the efficiency that Philadelphia does currently and has for a number of years. Like I said, this is usually a right-handed play concept. In this particular instance, again, from 2022, it's to the left, where the running back is lined up with the ball on the right hash. So Philly is running it to the field. Here's the 2 releases that I want to talk about and spend considerable time explaining why I think the Eagles do this. And like I said, you're welcome to expand upon it or fill in any missing gaps as the video goes on. So the front side tight end with a yellow arrow emanating from his position is called an arc release for my terminology. And then the backside tight end, the one up top, with the orange arrow, a hide concept. So he could kick out that edge defender who appears to be the read man. Now, there's some times, to be honest with you, where I think Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and other quarterbacks are, in fact, just looking at the window, so possibly trying to get an eye on one or both of the inside linebacker and edge defender to that side. I'm not really here to discuss who I think they're reading in this particular instance. Just be advised or be aware that sometimes I think it's a gray read, meaning you're not looking at one particular play, or just reading the window. In any case, that aforementioned tight end here, Goddard, could kick out the edge defender. In this case, there's the run option and the RPO, and then here's the pass option. It happens in a linear fashion, run, pass option. There are some plays that I would call a PRO, pass run option. Maybe that's a topic for another video. I've actually done a couple of those dating back to 2021. So let's look at the same play from the end zone angle. A lot going on here. First, Jason Kelce does end up kind of falling to the ground here. But all the blocking schemes are designed such that those guys are not working up to the second level. They're not trying to get too far downfield because they don't want to draw a lineman downfield pending on a pass play in the event that Jalen Hurts keeps it like he does here. I think Hurts is excellent on these RPOs. I think his ball skills, his footwork on these things is very clean and efficient. Not that he's the only quarterback who does so, but I just like that he's non-committal with his steps. So what I mean is, you really, if you took a sequence of 8 or 10 of these plays and you just ran it from here to here, you would really not be able to tell, or at least I wouldn't, whether it was a read play or a called keep or called give. And so that's important if you ask me, because defenders look at things like your feet and how much depth they have, excuse me, how much width they have, and how wide your stance is, number one. And number two, which of your feet is further forward than the other. Jalen Hurts is consistent, in my opinion, in my observation, with what he does, and thereby making the play concepts look the same and more effective against the defense. This is just an amazing play, if you ask me. First of all, you got an unblocked edge defender and a safety stepping up. Not exactly, I'm sure what to do here. He's attacking the run, leaves the snag concept wide open for a quick, easy completion from Jalen Hurts. Like I said, on a snag concept that is essentially three-step type stuff. Let me expand on that thought a little bit. One of the things I think makes this extremely effective is the differential in timing. So it can be a quick hitting play, right? Hurts makes the decision to give the football to the running back. It becomes a downhill run concept. Now, essentially split zone. Could be somewhat delayed, like the pass concept you just saw. Snag flat is really three-step, which is quick game, if you will. The Eagles, however, I think have really built this in such that the delay, the differential in timing, kind of freezes the defense because of how many threats there are. First, there's the running back. That's one. And the quarterback keeping it to the other side, opposite the running back flow. That's two. It's kind of what you saw on the first play I showed you of this video. The tackle by Kendricks for the Vikings 2022 on the bottom side of the screen. Option three for me would be the tight end, the front side tight end arc releasing and often going out into the flats. That kind of acts to widen up the outside linebacker and like I said, stand as the potential option or choice for number three. It's a short route, right, after Hurts has kept it. So there's a timing differential. The run, immediate, quick now. The pass portion of it, the snag concept that I showed you against the Saints in 2022, happens slightly thereafter. Then Hurts as the keeper, I guess, could be considered option three. That arc releasing tight end could be considered option three as well. You also have a backside tight end on that split zone look that can turn into a hide concept into the flats. So you could almost call this a quintuple option if you want to. In any case, the front side receiver route and the front side tight end act as really a clear out. You'll kind of see that a little bit later. Now, from a personal standpoint, we really saw this, if you ask me, around about 2005, 2006 at the high school level. But what I want to do first is kind of go in reverse and go over what I would consider option four. This portion, I think, really creates almost too much conflict for the outside linebacker and inside linebacker to the read side. So the two defenders that have blue lines linking them up, the inside linebacker and outside linebacker to the field, to the boundary. You have two tight ends on the field, so we're talking about 12 personnel. They, the Eagles, have controlled the defensive response that they're getting from the Rams, meaning you have a base defensive personnel field. Two safeties, two outside corners, and then a base 3-4 defensive structure, what decades ago would have just been called a straight 50. In any case, what it does, you put tremendous conflict on the offense, or the outside linebacker, by having the front side tight end who's got the yellow line emanating from his outside foot, his right foot. That wheel route, could be a flat route, clears out that space, and then the backside tight end here runs onto that space on what I would call, or many have chose to call, a hide concept. Clears out that space, puts a ton of conflict on the inside linebacker on the same side, because as this route flows through, the outside linebacker matches it, and now this guy becomes like a trickle-down effect. You are in tremendous conflict with the tight end from the opposite side, and that, lo and behold, on this particular version of the play, is where Jalen Hurts decides to go with the football. Let it flow through a couple of times live speed. I realized that I kind of marked things up and talked over a lot of the play. So one more time through, and then we'll go to the end zone angle so you guys can see the timing of it. The differential timing, I think, is important, especially in this day and age of football. So many second-level defenders, safeties, etc., looking in the backfield when the quarterback is in the shotgun and expecting and getting, in many situations, either a handoff to the running back now or a play action keep that has particular timing. Here, it's not just the number of options, it's the timing on them, in my opinion. It's also a low-risk play. Like I said, all the options and the horizontal threat really freezes the defense in many cases, and I think this is one of them. So you can see the mesh between Hurts and the running back, kind of like a sweep path, a little bit wider path for the running back. And this one certainly looks like now that it's designed for Hurts to keep it. But kind of what I mentioned a moment ago, you really see Hurts sell things extremely well in these either RPO or play action situations. In my opinion, I would say this is just a called keep to the right into the boundary where the Eagles staff, knows that there won't be any surplus defender. And all of those guys into the boundary, the outside linebacker and the frontside corner, will have been cleared out by the wide receiver and the frontside tight end. Like I said earlier, there's a ton of other people that run similar concepts to this or this exact one. In fact, I'll show you the Bears and the Colts doing so from 2022 and 2023. I've seen the Bills run some variations with Josh Allen, the Ravens clearly. When you have an athletic quarterback and then a solid run threat away, it just only makes things more dangerous because you have to honor that running back threat. In the case of the Eagles, it's now Saquon Barkley. I think this is a simple, relatively safe play, creates tremendous conflict on the defense, forces them to react. Really, as I said a couple of times earlier, really freeze. And option football does that, right? Instead of knowing where the football is and being decisive, you end up trying to figure out where the ball is and play on your heels, if you will. Now, I'm going to show some film from the Super Bowl, the Chiefs Eagles first Super Bowl matchup, won by Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And a couple of plays where, actually the defense does a nice job on some of the initial threats of the play concept, but Jalen Hurts and the offensive staff have answers, multiple answers, in my opinion. And what I mean when I say that is multiple answers in terms of different plays, but also multiple answers built into the same play concept. You can see compressed formation, both receivers well inside the top of the numbers. In fact, the downside receiver is lined up on the hash with the ball on the opposite hash. So super compressed split, two tight ends in the slot, running back into the boundary. I think that Karlaftis 56 does a spectacular job here, stepping down, forcing a keep by Hurts, and then getting in his line of sight, his passing lane, if you will, or possibly throwing to Devontae Smith on the snag concept. Now, that is actually where Hurts goes. It's a great effort by Karlaftis, and I think it's Willie Gay 50 to try to get a tip pass on it. Nonetheless, it's completed to Smith, and I think this illustrates the point. Jalen Hurts doesn't panic here. Now, there's no pressure. Well, that's what option football does in a lot of situations. If you're not declarative, meaning taking something away, Pittsburgh Steelers used to run at Lamar Jackson on any mesh concept, basically force a give read to the running back. Dynamic has changed there, obviously, with Derrick Henry being introduced to the Ravens roster in 2024. Same situation occurred with Saquon Barkley. Already had a great running game in Philadelphia. Barkley being added to the mix means, okay, if you want to force a give read all the time, then now Saquon Barkley is probably going to chew you up little by little. Having said that, like I said, I think Karlaftis does a really nice job here of taking away the first threat, the first option, the running back. Hurts is looking in that direction. And for those of you that are not familiar with option football, the quarterback isn't always going to have his face mask pointed directly at the read man. It's kind of an angular read, depending on whether you want to call it a 30, a 45, or a 48-degree angle. In any case, Karlaftis steps down. Hurts goes through his reads 1, 2, 3. And so I think for a moment he's just trying to look back in the middle of the field, knowing that there's really no option there for him, no possible receiver route. Devontae Smith sits down, wide open, makes a great play. If you ask me, Hurts makes a significantly better play, in my opinion, to get him the football in space against a too high defensive structure. Defense, not getting any pressure on the quarterback because of the option concept, the way the mesh freezes defenders and forces them to react instead of being declarative, decisive, or instinctive and coming downhill. You certainly do need some significant level of athleticism to pull some of this off, particularly the quarterback threat, out into the flats, keeping the football. Hurts isn't the only guy, like I said, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and others. I will say this. For those of you that only watch the NFL or high level college football, these concepts have been around for a really, really long time. You're just seeing them now run from shotgun formations at the NFL level. They've been around. Think about guys like Major Harris and others from the 90s and early 2000s, Pat White in West Virginia. You could go back and watch a lot of that film if it's available. First of all, if you can find some of that, let me know. I would love to watch it. the load option, the arc release, even the dual read stuff, what I've referred to so far as a hide concept. Athletic quarterbacks have made life pure hell for defense coordinators for decades, and this stuff is really no different. Take a look at one iteration of it from Justin Fields last season in Chicago, 2023. Look at how this edge defender, I think it's Aiden Hutchinson, but it could be wrong, is expanded out into the boundaries. Not Aiden Hutchinson, my apologies, but it's a great play by the inside linebacker to that side to get a tipped pass on it. Very different from the way that it worked out against the Rams, where I think it was Goddard was able to slide out into the flats and Hurts was able to find him kind of late. If you recall, A.J. Brown was actually pointing at the tight end on that one. But this time, this inside linebacker handles this route really nicely and then kind of peels off late to front up Justin Fields, if you will, and then get a hand on the pass to deflect it. Like I said, this is a game from, I believe, 2023, but maybe it's 2022. If it is, my apologies there. But in any case, it's a really nice example of how the inside linebacker can be put in conflict, but have the athleticism to move around and navigate the gap exchange that happens with him and this defensive end, Josh Paschal. So one thing I want to mention is this is an underfront when you're oftentimes trying to stop the run. In my experience, one of the things that works best is an underfront with the strong safety set to the weak side. So everyone here in yellow would be considered to the strong side. I don't know if necessarily you can see that 9 technique defensive end. One of the Okwara brothers, the guy I mistakenly referred to as Aiden Hutchinson, initially from the all-22 angle. That would be the strong side, the side where you have a 1, a 5, and a 9, or a shade, a 5, and a 9. Sometimes people line up with a tight 4. And then everything that's over here to the right side in orangish brown will be the weak side guys. Aiden Hutchinson's alignment is expanded, widened, I should say, because of the presence of this strong safety, because we're talking about a one-back formation. In any case, it's an underfront. And anytime you're running the football to the side of the 1, the 5, and the 9, got to be able to deal with both inside linebackers here. They're not blocking this guy at all because it's an option concept. And so he's got the athleticism and awareness to respond and react. Fields, we would really call this like 4 and 6 option, meaning it's not very good. But 40 takes advantage of it. Still has to take advantage of it, I should say, and simultaneously defend the tight end for a moment and then peel off to front Justin Fields, get a pass deflection on a great example of how the play is not, foolproof. You still have to execute. And in some cases, probably should just say, hey, let's just auto give the football until they start to stop the run game with the actual running back. Let's do one more example of this play concept from the exact same formation. We're going to talk about the Colts 2023, running it out of 11 personnel. This one's essentially just snag with the RPO read built in off of it. So same play that I've shown you from the Eagles twice. 11 personnel, 1 tight end spot shadowed on the bottom side of our screener to the left-hand side of the offense, and then the other guy is a receiver. In the case of Pittman in the slot, he's going to run the arc release or out into the flats, trying to expand things. Jonathan Taylor kind of tries to squirt out the back end of the offense underneath of the edge defender, tangled up with the left tackle. In this case, you've got a really great play by the strong safety coming down into the boundary. So same play from the end zone angle. And there's the arc release by Pittman in yellow, the yellow line emanating from his right foot. And then the tight end, 81, is running the hide concept that could turn into a split zone or a kick on that defensive end who's spot shadowed. So we're talking about this collision that's happening right here. On some of the plays that I've shown you, the tight end would pass this up because he's dual reading it. And so what I mean is the tight end and the quarterback are both reading this defender. And so the tight end would fly out into the flats because he knows the quarterback's going to keep it. In other words, not give the football. And so the tight end, would become an option out into the flats. In this case, either Gardner Minshew is A, not reading it, or B, he's responding to this nickel DB, which I doubt. But in any case, the way that it works out, it ends up being a give, even though this edge defender stepped down. And Jonathan Taylor, like I said, tries to sneak out the back door here to the left-hand side of the offense, right-hand side of the defense. Nice play by 31 to bring him down for a short gain. Let's go over a couple of different play concepts from the same formation that the Eagles really make look the same as some of the other concepts and kind of fool the defense, particularly when they're in a too high safety structure. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I tried to include some plays from other teams, not to be simplistic and say, oh, nobody else runs this as well as the Eagles do. But one thing I believe is that their usage of the formation and the play concept has more width and more depth than most other NFL teams because their initial jab or right cross, if you will, with the RPO slash quadruple option is simply more effective in its initial application. Again, a play here from the Eagles Chiefs first Super Bowl matchup. This is ace pistol, so the running back spot shadowed there in blue. A little bit different. He's behind the quarterback, not offset to one side or the other. What I would call A or B, but some people call king or queen. 12 personnel, so two tight ends, and the Chiefs have matched with their base 4-3 defensive structure and two high safeties that you can probably see at least one of them on the right hand side of the screen. So different play concept, essentially what I think a lot of people will call a sail flood, a deep over concept by this receiver here. Oftentimes is the target. In this case, Jalen Hurts decides to go up top to A.J. Brown, and I don't think that Trent McDuffie is in bad position really here at all. A.J. Brown is just too physical for him. Hurts gives him an opportunity to go make a play. And so when I say that I think that the Eagles can go deeper with their play concepts from this formation, there's a lot of factors there, right? Personnel, but previous iterations of this formation, ace gun, and then the play concept, RPO slash quadruple option, have, if you follow my analogy from earlier or my phrasing from earlier, they've frozen the defense. And so you can go to max protect stuff like this, 3 receiver routes. And when you've got a superstar receiver like A.J. Brown, a quarterback willing to go to him, you can create magic stuff like this. It's a beautiful play. I was rooting for the Eagles in this one. And in the previous Super Bowl, really think they, probably had a great opportunity to be 2-0 against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. A couple of other iterations here. Another Max Pro, somewhat similar play concept. And so A.J. Brown's at the top of the screen. He's once again going to be the targeted receiver. The downside route is one that I think is really interesting. It almost kind of works out like a deeper China out or whip route, if you will. So he's just trying to hold this corner such that A.J. Brown route can get above that corner, over top of him, if you will. A lot of teams utilize stuff like this when they're getting a cover 3 and a man call, or what they suspect to be a man call, into the boundary that will hold that corner so they can run another route over the top of them. This is not a cover 3. It's really a 3 deep, 3 under, almost like a zone blitz. And A.J. Brown ends up wide open on that deeper route concept from the left-hand side of the screen. So look, the max protection element of it, the 12 personnel certainly fits with it, right? So you got 2 tight ends. In this case, the one tight end to the left started here, and the other tight end is working from the right-hand side to the left. And so both of these guys are going to sit on the left side and try to deal with the edge defender, giving yourself a great opportunity there. And then finally, in this case, Swift working into the B gap and then out into the flats becomes the possible third eligible receiver. So huge amount of time created for Jalen Hurts, very similar to the play where he threw a touchdown to A.J. Brown against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Hopefully through the differential concepts that I've shown you, you can see the timing that kind of offsets the defense, meaning there's the quick portion of it, the give to the running back, the keep by the quarterback out into the flats, throw to either tight end, or possibly keep it himself. Like the first play in this video, Hurts with a short run play against the Vikings in 2022. When you mix all of it up, I know that personnel has a lot to do with success rates, right, or execution sometimes, right? The touchdown pass to Brown against the Chiefs a moment ago, McDuffie's right there. It's just amazing play, but design, scheme, level of execution, I think in this case for the Eagles is a bigger factor. And really, I'm getting back to Jalen Hurts. It's what he's able to do on this particular concept to smoothly run the play, make proper, correct decisions, not turn the football over, important, but also give the Eagles consistent opportunities to maximize yardage. And many other teams do this as well, right? The Ravens do a fantastic job of read option. The Chiefs run a shit ton of RPOs. The Bills kind of mix or merge those two types of concepts often. I do expect, to be honest with you, the Jets to run a lot of RPOs slash options with Justin Fields. In any case, this look that I'm showing you here, it could be extrapolated out to a number of concepts. This one was concrete for me to be able to present. I do think that one element that I haven't covered yet is important, and that is the 12 personnel nature, being able to force the defense's hand. That's unique. The Eagles get further into their playbook with this formation than I think other teams do. If you do have any other suggestions for either read option, RPO, or what I refer to as quadruple options, you can feel free to let me know in the comment section. I did feel like in 2021 this was a predictable formation for the Eagles. They've revealed the depth of it, if you ask me, in the last couple of years. Let's go through a couple of other iterations of this formation. And so just this is not the same play, the RPO slash quadruple option. I would say this is just basically arc release with a read by Jalen Hurts. But look at the conflict that's created in those two defenders that I talked about earlier in one of the plays utilized against the Rams from the same game. In fact, see the inside linebacker widening up. Now, this still only ends up being a short game for DeAndre Swift for a couple of reasons. The edge defender up at the top side does a really nice job of condensing the tight end. And then Ernest Jones just shows you how much of a badass he is from the end zone angle. You'll see what I'm talking about. These are the two players that are put in significant conflict, inside linebacker and outside linebacker to our right, to the field for the Eagles. And they're going to widen up. But check out how the edge defender, first of all, here, and then Ernest Jones is able to detach or stab off of a block and then fit into a gap that is not his to fit into after the edge defender really compresses things against this tight end. So we're talking about this matchup here. Watch this space get compressed, tightened, made less available for the running back, such that he can't squeeze through there cleanly. And you've got Ernest Jones and a safety who's behind the tight end there that you really can't see. The point of showing you some of these is that the conflict is created on these two defenders by the threat of the play that I showed you in the first 3 or 4 snaps of this video, hence the reason why I called it foundational. Finally, another play against the Eagles and to get back into, against the Rams, to get back into the point about the base defensive structure. One of the things, if you're going to be a too high structure from a 3-4 platform, is your outside linebackers oftentimes you have to have a peel rule, meaning they have to peel with a running back releasing into the flats like you get here. Now, how does that impact the 3 routes that are shown? I'll try to go through it from a mathematical standpoint, which really is what option football is all about. So because no one peels with this route out into the flats to the top side of the field, Ernest Jones goes with it. And so that creates a trickle down or a mathematical impact, if you ask me, on the way that these other 3 routes are covered. The tight end from the downside is going to intentionally cross the face of this linebacker. He's intentionally crossing his face and then sitting down. Ernest Jones expands, leaves that space available. But what's really important here, if you ask me, is A.J. Brown's deeper out route, holding this corner such that the tight end is able to fit from the top side of the field wide open underneath of the front side tight end who emanated from this side, and then A.J. Brown, who ran the deeper out concept. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. If there's too many colors or too many lines drawn on the screen, feel free to let me know. My point in showing you all of this is by controlling the defensive response, the base 3-4 defensive structure, the Eagles can kind of predict what they're going to see and give Hurts as much information as possible. A, just smart coaching, and B, just brilliant design, if you ask me, and how you can have an offense that has an answer built in to whatever the defense responds to for some of your foundational plays, if you believe what I said in the initial lead up to the first couple of snaps from the video. If you enjoy the video, please let me know in the comment section. I would like to do a little bit more of these. I did do a significant amount of film study on Clint Kubiak's offense with the Saints from 2024. Previous offseason was able to get out 2 or perhaps 3 offseason film studies on the Rams offense. I usually do that to try to just learn more for myself as an analyst or someone trying to analyze the football and present you guys with interesting plays or information. If you enjoyed it, feel free to let me know in the comment section, number 1. Number 2, if you think Eagles fans or football fans in general, anyone who likes the option game might enjoy this content, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.